Alright, some Tylenol. I'm dying. Hey guys. I don't know. Tylenol is technically against the guidelines, but I'm taking some Tylenol. I'll do it off screen just in case, I guess. So, thank you. Thank you. So as you can tell, I haven't taken a shower yet to get ready for bed, but I wanted to do my bedtime reading before it got too late. So, I'm just gonna get ready for bed after this. So we are in chapter 11 of, let me do the mirror so you guys can read it. There. So you guys can, your eyes on blink. Yeah, this is my natural eyebrows. Apparently they are the talk of TikTok. Yeah, but thank you. Yeah, I didn't realize that people get their eyebrows done until a couple years ago. So I stopped saying that because it made people mad. But hey, you know what? If my body is like low maintenance, great. You know, at least the less I have to do, the better. Sorry. That's just really funny. So we are reading A Wrinkle in Time. We are in chapter 11, and there's literally only 2 chapters left. So again, normally I'm showered, I'm in my pajamas, I'm laying down when I do these readings, but it was already pretty late and I wasn't even close to ready for bed yet, so figured I'd just do this real quick and then I get ready for bed afterwards. So, how's everybody doing? Okay, so, oh, I forgot to invite people. Whoops, hold on. Trying to make sure I invite everybody who usually likes to be here. Okay. No, I am not. I wish, though, I would kill for some good flight benefits right now. I'm ready. Yes, Benjamin. How are you? Okay, so for everybody here, I'm reading A Wrinkle in Time. We're in the 11th chapter, and there's, I believe, 12 chapters in this book. It's a trilogy, so after this, let me just confirm there's only 12 chapters. Yeah, there's only 12 chapters in the first book, and then it starts the next book. So, yay! Hello, Olivia. Hello. Alright, so as usual, I read the paragraph prior to the chapter we're currently in, just to kind of get us back on track, get us centered on what's happening next, and remind ourselves where we're at, and then I'll read chapter 11, and it's probably going to be easier for me to keep track on comments in this position. Hey, love, I thought you were knocked out cold. I was, and then I just got a burst of energy, so, yeah, I haven't taken a shower yet, so I have, like, my, mascara on still. So, yeah, but, I'm gonna take a shower and get ready for bed after this, because it was already so late, when I got up and made to fear Chef Baby is here. Hello, Chef Baby. Hello. Alright, so, we're in chapter 11 of, A Wrinkle in Time, and I didn't upload the chapter 10 from last night, but up to chapter 9 of this book is on my YouTube page. I have my YouTube page, the same as my name here, Bad Pika P. So, if you want to catch up on the chapters on the book, because we will be reading the next 2 books after I'm done with this chapter, the next 2 chapters. So if you want to catch up, definitely check out my YouTube page, which is Bad Pika P. It's also in my link in my bio, a direct link to it. Subscribe to my channel on there so that you can get updated whenever there's a new video that I've posted from my lives, and there's also my cooking lives on there as well as my other stuff that I do. all nice and organized on my playlist there. So yeah, and just checking in. Beautiful, loved your video. All the the burgers, man. I look different. Hi, Big Black. I mean, I feel like I look the same pretty much overall. I'm just facing the camera. I mean, the only thing that's different is between my other, like, usually when I do my bedtime stories, I've taken a shower and my makeup, my eye makeup is gone. I just have eye makeup on. That's the only difference. I love it. Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Am I on Bumble? No, I'm not. Thank you for all the flowers. There she is. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I don't really do much different stuff unless I'm, like, dressed up. I have my wigs, but, I mean, I feel like I look the same pretty much all the time. You know, even when I have makeup on, I don't feel like I look super different. Let's go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. So everybody here, reading A Wrinkle in Time. We are in chapter 11. I'm going to read the previous paragraph of the last the last paragraph of the previous chapter to catch us up on where we're at before we head into chapter 11. So, yes. Yes. Lights, camera, action. Sounds good. All right. Calvin answered the beast's question. We're from Earth. I'm not sure how we got here. We've had an accident. Meg, this girl, is paralyzed. She can't move. She's terribly cold. We think that's why she can't move. One of them came up to Meg and squatted down on its huge haunches beside her, and she felt utter loathing and revulsion as it reached out a tentacle to touch her face. But with the tentacle came the same delicate fragrance that moved across her with the breeze, and she felt a soft, tingling warmth go all through her that momentarily assuaged her pain. She felt suddenly sleepy. I must look as strange to it as it looks to me, she thought drowsily, and then realized with a shock that of course the beast couldn't see her at all. Nevertheless, a reassuring sense of safety flowed through her with the warmth which continued to seep deep into her as the beast touched her. Then it picked her up, cradling her in 2 of its 4 arms. Mr. Murray stood up quickly. What are you doing? Taking the child. Chapter 11. Aunt Beast. Look who's here, Waffles! Ready for bedtime story, my guys? Yes! Sorry, Miss Jackson. That's funny. Pooter, that's hilarious. Whitehurst, hi! Hi, people are already getting blocked, man. What's going on? That's not good for your neck. That's fine. I've done worse to my neck. Bonjour. Welcome. You're here just in time. I'm just finishing the last paragraph of the previous chapter, and we're going into chapter 11. Yeah, they're always around. Thank you for getting them. All right, chapter 11. Aunt Beast. Please put her down. A sense of amusement seemed to emanate from the beasts. The tallest, who seemed to be the spokesman, said, We frighten you? What are you going to do with us? Mr. Murray asked. The beast said, I'm sorry, we communicate better with the other one. He turned toward Calvin. Who are you? I'm Calvin O'Keefe. What's that? I'm a boy, a young man. You, too, are afraid? I'm not sure. Tell me, the beast said, what do you suppose you'd do if 3 of us suddenly arrived on your home planet? Wait, what? No, that's good. That's what I do it for. I mean, that's like, I mean, not the only reason, but yeah, I mean, if it helps you go to sleep, then that's me doing my job. So feel free to fall asleep. That's good. That's good. Awesome. Thank you. Shoot you, I guess, Calvin admitted. Then isn't that what we should do with you? Calvin's freckles seemed to deepen, but he answered quietly. I'd really rather you didn't. I mean, the Earth's my home, and I'd rather be there than anywhere in the world. I mean, the universe. And I can't wait to get back, but we make some awful bloopers there. The smallest beast, the one holding Meg, said, and perhaps they aren't used to visitors from other planets. Used to it, Calvin explained. We've never had any, as far as I know. Why? I don't know. The middle beast, a tremor of trepidation in his words, said, You aren't from a dark planet, are you? No, Calvin shook his head firmly. Though the beast couldn't see him. We're shadowed, but we're fighting the shadow. The beast holding Meg questioned, You three are fighting? Yes, Calvin answered, now that we know about it. The tall one turned back to Mr. Murry, speaking sternly. You, the oldest man, from where have you come? Now. Mr. Murry answered steadily. From a planet called Camazotz. There was a mutter from the three beasts. We do not belong there, Mr. Murry said slowly and distinctly. We were strangers there as we are here. I was a prisoner there, and these children rescued me. My youngest son, my baby, is still there, trapped in the dark mind of it. Meg tried to twist around in the beast's arms to glare at her father and Calvin. Why were they being so frank? Weren't they aware of the danger? But again her anger dissolved as the gentle warmth from the tentacles flowed through her. She realized that she could move her fingers and toes with comparative freedom, and the pain was no longer so acute. We must take this child back with us, the beast, holding her, said. Meg shouted at her father. Don't leave me the way you left Charles. With this burst of terror, a spasm of pain wrecked her body, and she gasped. Stop fighting, the beast told her. You make it worse. Relax. That's what it said, Meg cried. Father, Calvin, help. The beast turned toward Calvin and Mr. Murry. This child is in danger. You must trust us. We have no alternative, Mr. Murry said. Can you save her? I think so. May I stay with her? No, but you will not be far away. We feel that you are hungry, tired, that you would like to bathe and rest. And this little, what is this word? The beast cocked its tentacle at Calvin. Girl, Calvin said. This little girl needs prompt and special care. The coldness of the, what is it you call it? The black thing. The black thing, yes. The black thing burns unless it is counteracted properly. The three beasts stood around Meg, and it seemed that they were feeling into her with their softly waving tentacles. The movements of the tentacles was as rhythmic and flowing in the dance of an undersea plant. And lying there, cradled in the four strange arms, Meg, despite herself, felt a sense of security that was deeper than anything she had known since the days when she lay in her mother's arms in the old rocking chair and was swung to sleep. With her father's help, she had been able to resist it. Now she could hold out no longer. She leaned in her head against the beast's chest and realized that the gray body was covered with the softest, most delicate fur imaginable, and the fur had the same beautiful odor as the air. I hope I don't smell awful to it, she thought. But then she knew, with a deep sense of comfort, that even if she did smell awful, the beasts would forgive her. As the tall figure cradled her, she could feel the frigid stiffness of her body relaxing against it. This bliss could not come to her from a thing like it. It could only give pain, never relieve it. The beasts must be good. They had to be good, she sighed deeply. Like a very small child, and suddenly she was asleep. When she came to herself again, there was in the back of her mind a memory of pain, of agonizing pain, but the pain was over now, and her body was lapped in comfort. She was lying on something wonderfully soft in an enclosed chamber. It was dark. All she could see were occasional tall moving shadows, which she realized were beasts walking about. She had been stripped of her clothes, and something warm and pungent was gently being rubbed into her body. She sighed and stretched to discover that she could stretch. She could move again. She was no longer paralyzed, and her body was bathed in waves of warmth. Her father had not saved her. The beasts had. "So, you are awake, little one." The words came gently to her ears. "What a funny little tadpole you are. Is the pain gone now?" "All gone." "Are you warm and alive again?" "Yes, I'm fine." She struggled to sit up. "No, lie still, small one. You must not exert yourself as yet. We will have a fur garment for you in a moment, and then we will feed you. You must not try to feed yourself. You must be as an infant again. The black thing does not relinquish its victims willingly. Where are father and Calvin? Have they gone back for Charles?" "They are eating and resting," the beast said, "and we are trying to learn about each other and see what is best to help you. We feel now that you are not dangerous and that we will be allowed to help you." "Why is it so dark in here?" Meg asked. She tried to look around, but all she could see was shadows. Nevertheless, there was a sense of openness, a feel of a gentle breeze moving lightly about that kept the darkness from being oppressive. Perplexity came to her from the beast. "What is this dark? What is this light? We do not understand. Your father and the boy, Calvin, have asked this too. They say that it is night now on our planet and that they cannot see. They have told us that our atmosphere is what they call opaque, so that the stars are not visible, and then they were surprised that we knew stars, that we know their music and the movements of their dance far better than beings like you who spend hours studying them through what you call telescopes. We do not understand what this means, to see." "Well, it's what things look like," Meg said helplessly. "We do not know what things look like, as you say." The beast said, "We know what things are like. It must be a very limiting thing, this seeing." "Oh no," Meg cried, it's the most wonderful thing in the world." "What a very strange world yours must be," the beast said, "that such a peculiar seeming thing should be of such importance." Let me tune this light a little bit. Aw, thank you. Thank you, Eric. A Wrinkle in Time. Yes, we're reading A Wrinkle in Time. Ugly mutter. That's funny. Thank you. So yeah, we're reading A Wrinkle in Time. We're in chapter 11, so we're almost done with this book, but the next book is coming. Little, thank you for the roses. Thank you for reading It Relaxes Me, Your Best. Oh my gosh, that's what I do it for. I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for the follows. Thank you for the gifts. They help me out a lot. Thank you, Wire. I love them so much. I love them so much. Thank you, thanks so much. Little peek. Alright, let's continue reading. "What a strange world yours must be," the beast said, "that such a peculiar seeming thing should be of such importance. Try to tell me, what is this thing called light that you are able to do so little without?" "Well, we can't see without it," said Meg, realizing that she was completely unable to explain vision and light and dark. How can you explain sight on a world where no one has ever seen and where there is no need of eyes? "Well, on this planet," she fumbled, "you have a sun, don't you? A most wonderful sun, from which comes our warmth, and the rays which give us our flowers, our food, our music, and all the things which make life and growth." "Well," Meg said, "when we are turned toward the sun, our earth, our planet, toward our sun, we receive its light, and when we're turned away from it, it is night. And if we want to see, we have to use artificial lights." "Artificial lights," the beast sighed. "How very complicated life on your planet must be. Later on, you must try to explain some more to me." "All right," Meg promised. And yet she knew that to try to explain anything that could be seen with the eyes would be impossible, because the beast in some way saw, knew, understood far more completely than she. or her parents, or Calvin, or even Charles Wallace. Charles Wallace, she cried. What are they doing about Charles Wallace? We don't know what it's doing to him or making him do. Please, oh please help us. Yes, little one, of course, we will help you. A meeting is in session right now to study what is best to do. We have never before been able to talk to anyone who has managed to escape from a dark planet. So, although your father is blaming himself for everything that has happened, we feel that he must be quite an extraordinary person to get out of Camazotz with you at all. But the little boy, and I understand that he is a very special, a very important little boy. Ah, my child, you must accept that this will not be easy. To go back through the black thing, back to Camazotz. I don't know. But father left him, Meg said. He's got to bring him back. He can't just abandon Charles Wallace. The beast's communication suddenly became crisp. Nobody said anything about abandoning anybody. That is not our way. But we know that just because we want something does not mean that we will get what we want, and we still do not know what to do. And we cannot allow you, in your present state, to do anything that would jeopardize us all. I can see that you wish your father to go rushing back to Camazotz, and you would probably make him do this. And then where would we be? No. You must wait until you are more calm. Now, my darling, here is a robe for you to keep you warm and comfortable. Meg felt herself being lifted again, and a soft, light garment was slipped about her. Don't worry about your little brother. The tentacle's musical words were soft against her. We would never leave him behind the shadow. But for now, you must relax. You must be happy and you must get well. Hello. Oh, thank you guys. Well, I don't know about all that, but you guys make me blush. Yes. Whenever I get hired out for reading audiobooks, so I am able to be hired to read audiobooks. So if you guys know anybody who needs somebody to read their audiobooks for them, let me know. Alright. The gentle words, the feeding that this beast would be able to love her no matter what she said or did, lapped Meg in warmth and peace. She felt the delicate touch of tentacle to her cheek, as tender as her mother's kiss. It is so long since my own small ones were grown and gone, the beast said. You are so tiny and vulnerable. Now I will feed you. You must eat slowly and quietly. I know that you are half starved, that you have been without food far too long, but you must not rush things or you will not get well. Something completely and indescribably and incredibly delicious was put on Meg's lips, and she swallowed gratefully. With each swallow, she felt strength returning to her body, and she realized that she had nothing to eat since the horrible fake turkey dinner on Camazotz, which she had barely tasted. How long ago was her mother's stew? Time no longer had any meaning. How long does night last here? She murmured sleepily. It will be day again, won't it? Hush, the beast said. Eat, small one. During the coolness which is now, we sleep, and when you awake, there will be warmth again and many things to do. You must eat now and sleep, and I will stay with you. What should I call you, please? Meg asked. Well now, first try not to say any words for just a moment. Think within your own mind. Think of all the things you call people, different kinds of people. While Meg thought, the beast murmured to her gently, No, mother is a one name, and father you have here. Not just friend, nor teacher, nor brother, nor sister. What is acquaintance? What a funny, hard word. Aunt, maybe. Yes, perhaps that will do. And do you think of such odd words about me? Thing and monster. Monster, what a horrid sort of word. I really do not think I am a monster. Beast. That will do. Aunt Beast. Aunt Beast, Meg murmured sleepily and laughed. Have I said something funny? Aunt Beast asked in surprise. And isn't Aunt Beast all right? Aunt Beast is lovely, Meg said. Please sing to me, Aunt Beast. If it were impossible to describe sight to Aunt Beast, it would be even more impossible to describe the singing of Aunt Beast to a human being. It was a music even more glorious than the music of the singing creatures on Uriel. It was a music more tangible than form or sight. It had essence and structure. It supported Meg more firmly than the arms of Aunt Beast. It seemed to travel with her, to sweep her aloft in the power of song, so that she was moving in glory among the stars, and for a moment she, too, felt that the words darkness and light had no meaning, and only this melody was real. Meg did not know when she fell asleep within the body of the music. When she wakened, Aunt Beast was asleep, the softness of her furry, faceless head drooping. Night had gone, and dull gray light filled the room, but she realized now that here, on this planet, there was no need for color, that the grays and browns merging into each other were not what the beasts knew, and that what she, herself, saw was only the smallest fraction of what the planet was really like. It was she who was limited by her senses, not the blind beasts, for they must have senses of which she could not even dream. She stirred slightly, and Aunt Beast bent over her immediately. "What a lovely sleep, my darling. Do you feel all right?" I haven't read this series. Yes, it is a favorite of mine, for sure. It is a huge favorite of mine. And I need audiobooks. You'll be my only choice. Oh my gosh, Eric. Deal. Deal. I love that. "I feel wonderful," Meg said. "Aunt Beast, what is this planet called?" "Oh dear," Aunt Beast sighed. "I find it not easy at all to put things the way your mind shapes them. You call where you came from Camazotz? Well, it's where we came from, but it's not our planet. You can call us Ixchel, I guess," Aunt Beast told her. "We share the same sun as lost Camazotz, but that, give thanks, is all we share." "Are you fighting the black thing?" Meg asked. "Oh, yes," Aunt Beast replied. "In doing that, we can never relax. We are called according to his purpose, and whom he calls, then he also justifies. Of course, we have help, and without help it would be much more difficult." "Who helps you?" Meg asked. "Oh dear, it is so difficult to explain things to you, small one. And I now know that it is not just because you are a child. The other two are as hard to reach into as you are. What can I tell you that will mean anything to you? Good helps us. The stars help us. Perhaps what you call light helps us. Love helps us. Oh, my child, I cannot explain. This is something you just have to know or not know. But we look not at the things which are what you call seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal. Aunt Beast, do you know Mrs. Whatsit?" Meg asked with a sudden flooding of hope. I have read Tolkien. Good morning. Thank you, Jessie. Yes, sweet dreams to you as well. Sweet dreams. "Mrs. Whatsit," Aunt Beast was puzzled. "Oh, child, your language is so utterly simple and limited that it has the effect of extreme complication." Her forearms, tentacles waving, were outflung in a gesture of helplessness. "Would you like me to take you to your father and your Calvin?" "Oh, yes, please." "Let us go, then. They are waiting for you to make plans, and we thought you would enjoy eating. What is it you call it? Yes, breakfast together. You will be too warm in that heavy fur now. I will dress you in something lighter, and then we will go." As though Meg were a baby, Aunt Beast bathed and dressed her, and this new garment, though it was made of a pale fur, was lighter than the lightest summer clothes on earth. Aunt Beast put one tentacled arm around Meg's waist and led her through long, dim corridors in which she could see only shadows and shadows of shadows until they reached a large, columned chamber. Shafts of light came in from an open skylight and converged about a huge round stone table. Here were seated several of the great beasts, and Calvin and Mr. Murray on a stone bench that circled the table. Because the beasts were so tall, even Mr. Murray's feet did not touch the ground, and lanky Calvin's long legs dangled as though he were Charles Wallace. The hall was partially enclosed by vaulted arches leading to long, paved walks. There were no empty walls, no covering sofa roofs, so that although the light was dull in comparison to Earth's sunlight, Meg had no feeling of dark or of a chill. As Aunt Beast led Meg in, Mr. Murray slid down from the bench and hurried to her, putting his arms about her tenderly. "They promised us you were all right," he said. While she had been in Aunt Beast's arms, Meg had felt safe and secure. Now her worries about Charles Wallace and her disappointment... Hold on, let me get situated. I actually almost did start reading one of those books. So after this one, I might do that one. I'm a Venmo. Do it. Whitehurst, thank you. Harry Potter. I have Harry Potter too. I'll be doing those as well. Aw, thank you guys. Thank you, Frango. Tell me you're a nerd without actually telling me you're a nerd. I think I speak for myself. Thank you for the follow. Thank you for reading. Of course. So we are reading A Wrinkle in Time. We're in the second to last chapter. But don't worry. If you want to catch up, I have every previous chapter uploaded on my YouTube channel underneath A Wrinkle in Time, bedtime story. And the link for my YouTube is in my link in the bio on my profile page. And make sure you subscribe so that way you can be alerted whenever a new post is made. Aw, you're welcome. Thank you for the roses. Thank you for the pandas. You guys are amazing. It really helps me a lot. I appreciate it. Yeah, you can hear that. Yeah, it is my laundry. It's my dryer, which is a good sign because the fact that I had enough energy today to do a load of laundry is huge. So it's a good sound for me. It's funny. Yeah, I got enough energy about like 11 p.m. tonight. Oh, ooh, what's that? And I was like, I got energy. I'm gonna do a load of laundry. DoorDash fun gets you out of bed. It does. Seriously, I'm not even joking. Like, that's actually a real thing. That's the only reason I was able to get out of bed today is because I ordered DoorDash French toast. Or was that yesterday? I think that was yesterday. See? Trying to get my health back up in order. So, alright, sorry, continuing. While she had been in Aunt Beast's arms, Meg had felt safe and secure. Now her worries about Charles Wallace and her disappointment in her father's human fallibility rose like gorge in her throat. "I'm fine," she muttered, looking not at Calvin or her father, but at the beasts, for it was to them she turned now for help. It seemed to her that neither her father nor Calvin were properly concerned about Charles Wallace. "Meg," Calvin said gaily, "you've never tasted so much food in your life. Come and eat." Aunt Beast lifted Meg up onto the bench and sat down beside her, then heaped a plate with food, strange fruits and breads that tasted unlike anything Meg had ever eaten. Everything was dull and colorless and unappetizing to look at, and at first, even remembering the meal Aunt Beast had fed her the night before, Meg hesitated to taste. But once she managed the first bite, she ate eagerly. It seemed she would never have her fill again. The others waited until she slowed down. Then Mr. Murray said gravely, "We were trying to work out a plan to rescue Charles Wallace. Since I made such a mistake in testering away from it, we feel that it would not be wise for me to try to get back to Camazotz even alone. If I missed the mark again, I could easily get lost and wander forever from galaxy to galaxy, and that would be small help to anyone, least of all to Charles Wallace." Such a wave of despondency came over Meg that she was no longer able to eat. "Our friends here," he continued, Feel that it was only the fact that I still wore the glasses your Mrs. Who gave you that kept me within the solar system. Here are the glasses, Meg, but I am afraid that the virtue has gone from them, and now they are only glasses. Perhaps they were meant to help only once, and only on Camazotz. Perhaps it was going through the black thing that did it. He pushed the glasses across the table at her. These people know about Tesserine. Calvin gestured at the circle of great beasts, but they can't do it onto a dark planet. Have you tried to call Mrs. Whatsit? Meg asked. Not yet, her father answered. But if you haven't thought of anything else, it's the only thing to do, Father. Don't you care about Charles at all? At that, Aunt Beast stood up, saying, Child, in a reproving way. Mr. Murry said nothing, and Meg could see that she only wounded him deeply. She reacted as if she would have reacted to Mr. Jenkins. She scowled down at the table, saying, We've got to ask them for help now. You're just stupid if you think we don't. Aunt Beast spoke to the others. The child is distraught. Don't judge her harshly. She is almost taken by the black thing. Sometimes we can't know what spiritual damage it leaves even when physical recovery is complete. Meg looked angrily around the table. The beast sat there, silent, motionless. She felt that she was being measured and found wanting. Calvin swung away from her and hunched himself up. Hasn't it occurred to you that we've been trying to tell them about our ladies? What do you think we've been up to all this time? Just stuffing our faces? Okay, you have a shot at it. Yes, try a shot, child. Aunt Bee seated herself again and pulled Meg up beside her. But I do not understand this feeling of anger I sense in you. What is it about? There is blame going on and guilt. Why? Aunt Beast, don't you know? No, Aunt Beast said. But this is not telling me about whoever they are you want us to try to know. Try. Meg tried, blunderingly, fumblingly. At first she described Mrs. Whatsit and her man's coat and multicolored shawls and scarves, Mrs. Who and her white robes and shimmering spectacles, Mrs. Witch in her peaked cap and black gown, quivering in and out of body. Then she realized what she said was absurd. She was ascribing them only to herself. This wasn't Mrs. Whatsit or Mrs. Who or Mrs. Witch. She might as well have described Mrs. Whatsit as she was when she took on the form of a flying creature of Uriel. Don't try to use words, Aunt Bee said soothingly. You're just fighting yourself and me. Think about what they are. This look doesn't help us at all. Meg tried again, but she could not get a visual concept out of her mind. She tried to think of Mrs. Whatsit explaining Tesserine. She tried to think of them in terms of mathematics. Every once in a while she thought she felt a flicker of understanding from Aunt Beast or one of the others. But most of the time, all that emanated from them was gentle puzzlement. Angels, Calvin shouted suddenly from across the table. Guardian angels. There was a moment's silence, and he shouted again, his face tense with concentration. Messengers of God. I thought for a moment, Aunt Beast served, then subsided, sighing. No, it's not clear enough. How strange is it that they can't tell us what they themselves seem to know? A tall, thin beast murmured. One of Aunt Beast's tentacled arms went around Meg's waist again. They are very young, and on their Earth, as they call it, they never communicate with other planets. They revolve about all alone in space. Oh, the thin beast said, aren't they lonely? Suddenly, a thundering voice reverberated throughout the great hall. We are here. Let's see. No, I didn't. I got my deliveries from DoorDash today, but I really did not have the energy today, despite yesterday being my dose day for my vitamin. Thank you, Maddie. I still was pretty tired today, so I just didn't have the energy. I just had enough energy to do this, honestly, barely. It's helping. Yeah, I bet the filet helped. It did help. It did. I needed that. at my house. It's so pretty. At my house, Florida, really. Oh, thank you for the follow. I only allow guests during certain lives that I'm doing. This is just a bedtime story live, so I just do these myself because it wouldn't make sense to have another person on when I'm doing a bedtime story. And I only do people that I'm familiar with, of course. Hope you're doing fine. Thank you so much for reading. Of course, Kelsey. Hello. How are you? Welcome, welcome. Good to see you again. Thank you for the gifts, guys. Hello, hello. Hello, Open. Alright, so let me see how long this chapter 12 is. It's a long one. Let's see how many people are here. There's 41 people in here, though. So I might actually just read the last chapter. I don't read because you do it for me. Hey, that's what I'm here for. That's what I do. Alright, so guys, this is a special one. We're gonna read the last chapter of the book, of the first book, A Wrinkle in Time. It's a trilogy, so there's 2 books after this, of course. And it's all included. It's a 3-in-1 book that I got here. It's good to see you. Quite the motivational person right here, guys. Oh my gosh, Nicole, you are so sweet. You guys give me too much credit. I appreciate you, the guys, though, so much. Let me, I know this light's on me, but I do need it for reading, too, I realize. Let me actually try to do, maybe if I do, like, kind of angle myself and move the camera. Put it against the wall. Oops. So it bounces. Uh-oh. I broke it. I broke it. Hold on. Now I can't see it all. Nope, we're broke. Alexa, turn the bedroom lights to 1%. Okay. Well, that solves that problem. We're just gonna do that. I broke it. So you just go, what more? Yeah, you know what? That is all I ask for in people, and so that's what I want to give. You can read me anything you want. That's funny. That's still a thing. Heck yeah, it is.
Sorry, I'm having trouble understanding right now. Please try a little later.
Alexa's not great at understanding sometimes. You give us. I love that. I love that. Thank you, Whitehurst. Oh, sorry, Whitehurst. I'm sorry to turn the lights down on you. I should start giving warnings. Oh my gosh, that's funny. I'm already muted to beautiful. That's funny. Let's see if I could fix this. I don't know what happened. I don't know if I just broke it or... Oh, it's back on. Okay. So... Alright. So that'll just light this, although that's like the bright setting. It's too bright for my eyes. There we go. That's easier on the eyes there. Oh, I love the heart. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Welcome. So, for anybody that's new, let me adjust this though back to normal. We are reading A Wrinkle in Time. Oh, thank you for the panda. Oh, the Count 79. I think you're a new gifter. I think I just realized I missed somebody else too. After the live, it'll tell me everybody who gifted, and I'll add your name if I forgot to add you. But anytime somebody sends me a gift on here, I add their name to my bookmark, and it's a 2-sided one, so I'm actually on the second page for this book. And then whenever I'm done with a book, I leave that bookmark in that book, and then I start a new book with a new bookmark. So it's like, you know, you guys can like collect your names on my bookmark in each book I read. Oh, Foodie! I don't have you on there either, I don't think. Yeah, I don't. So we got Foodie, thank you so much. I appreciate it so much. And you up too late. This is early for me still. I probably should trim my brightness. Oh no, I'm sorry. The Count 79. So the Count 79, you're right there. right above Eric the Love Bear, and Foodie, you're right below Eric the Love Bear. Right there. Thank you, guys. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for all the roses and the TikToks. Whitehurst, thank you for the fire. Wait, Whitehurst, are you on this one? You probably are. I just want to make sure. I think I just assumed you were on my bookmark on this because it's a new one. So I'll just add you. I'm sorry about that. You're always supporting me, so I just assumed I had already written you down like first. You're right there. Thank you. Oh, Maddie, thank you for the paper crane. Thank you. Maddie, and I think actually just making sure. Yeah, you're not on here either. Thank you. Good morning. Hi, trainer. Thank you. Maddie SD. You're right there underneath Whitehurst. Wait, where am I at? There we go. Thank you. Oh, Michelle Bird, thank you for the follow. Thank you. Hello, Nebraska. All right, so we are reading Wrinkle in Time. I'm on the last chapter, so it's an important live tonight. So we're reading A Wrinkle in Time. Restaurant still winding down. Ooh, perfect timing. I hope it was a good stream. Bedtime story. Heck yeah. We were in chapter 12. It was just the last chapter of the first book, A Wrinkle in Time. If you've missed the previous chapters or is this your first time, I do have all the previous chapters of my reading bedtime stories of this book and previous books on my YouTube channel, which is also Bad Pika P. And there's a direct link in my bio link in my profile. So, with that, let us continue to... Oh, it went out again. I just moved. It didn't like me moving. It doesn't want me comfortable. Okay, hold on. Good thing this thing was free. I think I found out why. Keto's been chewing on it. Alright, let me try. Just straighten up the cable. There's a freaking chew mark on it. It's not super bad, so it's got a chance, I think. Maybe. Alright, well. Ah! That was my water bottle. It's fine. Everything's fine. Alright. I'll move back this way then. Guess. What can you do? Oh, you know what? Okay. Thank you for, oh my gosh, Foodie. Thank you so much for all of them. Ustad. Thank you. It was the ghost, seriously though. Thank you. All right, let's continue. Who's part we'll run. Seriously though. You ain't wrong. Let me try to use this other light that I have. get it situated. Oh, of course it's... I'm not even going to try to bother working. It's on. It's working again now. I'm not going to trust it. It's so bright. It hurts my eyes. Sorry, guys. Let me get it to the chill one. Ah, it's so bright. Hold on. Okay. There we go. That's better. Situated. Oh, sorry, let's have a great day. You too, Trainer. You too. Yeah. We in a bedtime story. Heck yeah, we are big block. Thank you. I do have you on this bookmark, but I'm just going to double check just to make sure. Yep, you're on there. You're right there. Yo, hello. How are you, Nate Smith? Thank you for the rose. You are getting your name added to my bookmark. Thank you so much. So anytime somebody gives me a gift on a new bookmark, on a new book, I add their name to my bookmark that has all the books on it. On the shelf. Isn't that cute? Nate Smith. Thank you so much. Hello, hello. From Singapore. Nice. How is Singapore? Whitehurst, thank you, Maddie. Maddie. That swan though. Aw, thank you, Frango. Philadelphia, hello, hello, hello. Alright, we are reading A Wrinkle in Time. We are on the last chapter of the first book, A Wrinkle in Time. So, this is the big one. Okay. Now that I got light. Aw, thank you, Remy. Or not Remy, Rem. Aw, thank you, Sing. Thank you. Alright, let's continue. Last chapter, guys. It's a big one. It's the final battle. The final countdown. Okay, sorry. Chapter 12. The Foolish and the Weak. Meg could see nothing, but she felt her heart pounding with hope. With one accord, all the beasts rose to their feet, turned toward one of the arched openings, and bowed their heads and tentacles in greeting. Mrs. Whatsit appeared, standing between two columns. Beside her came Mrs. Who, behind them a quivering of light. The three of them were somehow not quite the same as they had been when Meg had first seen them. Their outlines seemed blurred. Colors ran together as in a wet watercolor painting. But they were there. They were recognizable. They were themselves. Meg pulled herself away from Aunt Beast, jumped to the floor, and rushed at Mrs. Whatsit. But Mrs. Whatsit held up a warning hand, and Meg realized that she was not completely materialized, that she was light and not substance, and embracing her now would have been like trying to hug a sunbeam. I miss the sunglasses. Most who go live look like they want to hurt us. Oh my goodness, that's terrible. That's you're on the wrong side of TikTok, I think. Well, welcome. It's funny. I'm sorry I missed the sunglasses, Foodie. I really like the glasses ones too. Alright, I'll try not to miss it again. Oh my. Oh man. We had to hurry, so there wasn't quite time. You wanted us? Mrs. Whatsit asked. The tallest of the beasts bowed again and took a step away from the table and toward Mrs. Whatsit. It is a question of the little boy. Father left him, Meg cried. He left him on Camazotz. Appallingly, Mrs. Whatsit's voice was cold, and what did you expect us to do? Meg pressed her knuckles against her teeth so that her braces cut her skin. Then she flung out her arms pleadingly. But it's Charles Wallace. It has him. Mrs. Whatsit, save him. Please save him. You know that we can do nothing on Camazotz, Mrs. Whatsit said, her voice still cold. You mean you'll let Charles be caught by it forever? Meg's voice rose shrilly. Did I say that? But we can't do anything. You know we can't. We tried. Mrs. Whatsit, you have to save him. Meg, this is not our way, Mrs. Whatsit said sadly. I thought you would know that this is not our way. Mr. Murray took a step forward and bowed, and to Meg's amazement, the three ladies bowed back to him. I don't believe we've been introduced, Mrs. Whatsit said. It's father, it's father. Meg's angry impatience grew. Father, whom Mrs. Whatsit, Mrs. Who, and Mrs. Which? I'm very glad to... Mr. Murray mumbled, then went on. I'm sorry, my glasses are broken and I can't see you very well. It's not necessary to see us, Mrs. Whatsit said. Everyone fell asleep. That's perfect. Good. Hello, how are you doing? I hope you're doing alright. Think like you're bored? If you could teach me enough more about the Tesseract so that I could get back to Camazotz. What then? Came Mrs. Witch's surprising voice. I will tell you to take my child away from it. And you know that you will not succeed. There's nothing left except to try. Mrs. Whatsit spoke gently. I'm sorry, we cannot allow you to go. Then let me, Calvin suggested. I always got him away before. Mrs. Whatsit shook her head. No, Calvin. Charles has gone even deeper into it. You will not be permitted to throw yourself in with him, for that, we must realize, is what would happen. There was a long silence. All the soft rays filtering into the great hall seemed to concentrate on Mrs. Whatsit, Mrs. Who, and the faint light that must be Mrs. Which. No one spoke. Where was I? I lost my place. Oh wait, no one spoke. One of the beasts moved to a tendril slowly back and forth across the stone tabletop. At last, Meg could stand it no longer, and she cried out despairingly. Then what are you going to do? Are you just going to throw Charles away? Mrs. Witch's voice rolled formidably across the hall. Silence, child. But Meg could not be silent. She pressed closely against Aunt Beast, but Aunt Beast did not put the protecting tentacle around her. I can't go, Meg cried. I can't. You know I can't. Did anybody ask you to? The grim voice made Meg's skin prickle into goose flesh. She burst into tears. She started beating at Aunt Beast like a small child having a tantrum. Her tears rained down her face and spattered Aunt Beast's fur. Aunt Beast stood quietly against the assault. All right, I'll go, Meg sobbed. I know you want me to go. We want nothing from you that you do not know, that you do without grace, Mrs. Whatsit said, or that you do without understanding. Meg's tears stopped as abruptly as they had started. But I do understand. She felt tired and unexpectedly peaceful. Now the coldness that, under Aunt Beast's ministrations, had left her body, had only left her mind. She looked toward her father, and her confused anger was gone. Oh my goodness, Foodie! Thank you for all the gifts! Thank you! Oh my gosh, you just keep giving them! You're so amazing! Thank you so much! Oh my gosh, you're going crazy with them! I love it! Thank you! Thank you so much! You're so freaking sweet! I love it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Hola, mi amor. Hola. Hello, Philippines. How are you? How are you? We are just reading A Wrinkle in Time. I'm in the last chapter, so it's exciting. I look teen. I am definitely not a teen. I'm increasing interactions metrics to get the steams up. I love it, Foodie. That I love it so much. Thank you for sharing. Thank you so much. You're amazing. You're so clever. Thank you. Well, thank you for the follow, guys, and thank you for the likes. And Foodie, thank you so much for all the gifts. I love it. I love it so much. I appreciate it. Meg's tears stopped abruptly. She felt tired and unexpectedly peaceful. Now the coldness that, under Aunt Beast's ministrations, had left her body had also left her mind. She looked toward her father, and her confused anger was gone, and she felt only love and pride. She smiled at him, asking forgiveness, and then pressed up against Aunt Beast. This time Aunt Beast's arm went around her. Mrs. Witch's voice was grave. What do you understand? That it has to be me. It can't be anyone else. I don't understand Charles, but he understands me. I'm the one who's closest to him. Father's been away for so long, since Charles Wallace was a baby. They don't know each other, and Calvin's only known Charles for such a little time. If it had been longer, then he would have been the one, but, oh, I see, I understand. It has to be me. There isn't anyone else. Mr. Murry, who had been sitting his elbows on his knees, his chin on his fists, rose. I will not allow it. Why? Mrs. Witch demanded. Look, I don't know what or who you are, and at this point I don't care. I will not allow my daughter to go alone into that danger. Why? You know what the outcome will probably be. And she's weak now, weaker than she was before. She was almost killed by the black thing. I fail to understand how you could even consider such a thing. Calvin jumped down. Maybe it's right about you, or maybe you're in league with it. I'm the one to go if anybody goes. Why did you bring me along at all? To take care of Meg. You said so yourself. But you have done that, Mrs. Whatsit assured him. I haven't done anything, Calvin shouted. You can't send Meg. I won't allow it. I'll put my foot down. I won't permit it. Don't you see that you're making something that is already hard for Meg even harder? Mrs. Whatsit asked him. Aunt Beast turned tentacles toward Mrs. Whatsit. Is she strong enough to test her again? You know what she has been through. If Witch takes her, she can manage, Mrs. Whatsit said. If it will help, I could go too, and hold her. Aunt Beast's arms around Meg tightened. Oh, Aunt Beast, Meg started. But Mrs. Whatsit cut her off. No, I was afraid not, Aunt Beast said humbly. I just wanted you to know that I would. Mrs. Whatsit, Mr. Murry frowned and pushed his hair back from his face. Then he shoved his middle finger at his nose as though he were trying to get spectacles closer to his eyes. Are you remembering that she is only a child? And she's backward, Calvin bellowed. I resent that, Meg said hotly, hoping that indignation would control her trembling. I'm better than you at math, and you know it. Do you have the courage to go alone? Mrs. Whatsit asked her. Meg's voice was flat. No, but it doesn't matter. She turned to her father and Calvin. You know it's the only thing to do. You know they'd never send me alone if... How do you know they're not in league with it? Mr. Murry demanded. Father. No, Meg, Mrs. Whatsit said. I do not blame your father for being angry and suspicious and frightened. And I cannot pretend that we are doing anything but sending you into the gravest kind of danger. I have to acknowledge quite openly that it may be a fatal danger. I know this, but I do not believe it, and the happy medium doesn't believe it either. Can't she see what's going to happen? Calvin asked. Oh, not in this kind of thing. Mrs. Whatsit sounded surprised at his question. If we knew ahead of time what was going to happen, we'd be like the people on Camazotz. with no lives of our own, with everything all planned and done for us. How can I explain it to you? Oh, I know. In your language, you have a form of poetry called the sonnet. Yes, yes, Calvin said impatiently. What's that got to do with the happy medium? Kindly pay me the courtesy of listening to me. Mrs. What's-It voice was stern, and for a moment Calvin stopped pawing the ground like a nervous colt. It is a very strict form of poetry, is it not? Yes. There are 14 lines, I believe, all in iambic. Oh my goodness, I can't speak right now. Iambic. Ugh, you know what I'm trying to say. Pentameter. That's a very strict rhythm or meter. Yes. Yes, Calvin asked. Let me get a drink of water my mouth is getting dry. It has gotten deep. It is an intense book, for sure. Yeah, don't worry. It has a good ending. They haven't died yet. I don't think they die. Oh, thank you for the panda. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Get out of here. Awesome. Okay. Here we go. And each line has to end with a rigid rhyme pattern. And if the poet does not do it exactly this way, it is not a sonnet, is it? No. But within this strict form, the poet has complete freedom to say whatever he wants, doesn't he? Yes, Calvin nodded again. So, Mrs. What's-It said. So what? Oh, do not be stupid, boy, Mrs. What's-It scolded. You know perfectly well what I am driving at. You mean you're comparing our lives to a sonnet. A strict form, but freedom within it. Yes, Mrs. What's-It said. You are given the form, but you have to write the sonnet yourself. What you say is completely up to you. Please, Meg said, please. If I've got to go, I want to go and get it over with. Each minute we put it off makes it harder. She is right, boomed Mrs. Witch's voice. It is time. You may say goodbye, Mrs. What's-It was giving her not permission, but a command. Meg curtsied clumsily to the beasts. Thank you all, very much. I know you saved my life. She did not add what she could not help thinking. Saved it for what? So that it could get me? She put her arms around Aunt Beast, pressed up against the soft, fragrant fur. Thank you, she whispered. I love you. And I you, little one. Aunt Beast pressed gentle tendrils against Meg's face. Meg said, holding out her hand. Calvin came to her and took her hand, then drew her roughly to him and kissed her. Aww. He didn't say anything, and he turned away before he had a chance to see the surprised happiness that brightened Meg's eyes. At last she turned to her father. I'm sorry, Father. He took both her hands in his, bent down to her with his short-sighted eyes. Sorry for what, Megatron? Tears almost came to her eyes at the gentle use of the old nickname. I wanted you to do it all for me. I wanted everything to be all easy and simple. So I tried to pretend that it was all your fault, because I was scared, and I didn't want to have to do anything myself. But I wanted to do it for you, Mr. Murry said. That's what every parent wants. He looked into her dark, frightened eyes. I won't let you go, Meg. I'm going. No, Mrs. What's-It voice was sterner than Meg had ever heard it. You are going to allow Meg the privilege of accepting this danger. You are a wise man, Mr. Murry. You are going to let her go. Mr. Murry sighed. He drew Meg close to him. Little Meg Parsec, don't be afraid to be afraid. We will try to have courage for you. That is all we can do. Your mother was always shoving me out in the world, Meg said. She'd want me to do this. You know she would. Tell her, she started, choked, then held her head up and said, No, never mind. I'll tell her myself. Good girl, of course you will. Now, Meg walked slowly around the great table to where Mrs. Whatsit was still poised between the columns. Are you going with me? Thanks. Oh, Gerald. Thank you. It's so relaxing. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you, Jerem. Oh, my goodness. No, only Mrs. Witch. The black thing. Fear made her voice tremble. When Father tessered me through it, it almost got me. Your father is singularly inexperienced, Mrs. Whatsit said. Though a fine man and worth teaching, at the moment he still treats testering as though he were working with a machine. We will not let the black thing get you, I don't think. This was not exactly comforting. The momentary vision and faith that had come to Meg dwindled. But suppose I can't get Charles Wallace away from it. Stop. Mrs. Whatsit held up her hand. We gave you gifts the last time we took you to Camazotz. We will not let you go empty-handed this time. But what we can give you now is nothing you can touch with your hands. I give you my love, Meg. Never forget that. My love always. Mrs. Who, eyes shining behind spectacles, beamed at Meg. Meg handed back the spectacles she had used on Camazotz. Your father is right. Mrs. Who took the spectacles and hid them somewhere in the folds of her robes. The virtue is gone from them, and what I have to give you this time you must try to understand, not word by word, but in a flash, as you understand, the Tesseract. Listen, Meg, listen well. The foolishness of God is wiser than men, and the weakness of God is stronger than men. For you see your calling, brethren, how that not many wise men after the flesh, not many mighty, not many noble, are called, but God hath chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise, and God hath chosen the weak things of the world to confound the things which are mighty, and base things of the world, and things which are despised, hath God chosen ye, and things which are not, to bring to naught things that are. She paused, and then she said, May the right prevail. Her spectacles seemed to flicker behind her, through her. One of the columns became visible. There was a final gleam from the glasses, and she was gone. Meg looked nervously to where Mrs. Whatsit had been standing before. Mrs. Who spoke, but Mrs. Whatsit was no longer there. No, Mr. Murry cried, and stepped toward Meg. Mrs. Witch's voice came through her shimmer. I cannot hold your hand, child. Immediately Meg was swept into darkness, into nothingness, and then into the icy devouring cold of the black thing. Mrs. Witch won't let it get me, she thought over and over, while the cold of the black thing seemed to crunch at her bones. Then they were through it, and she was standing breathlessly on her feet on the same hill on which they had first landed on Camazotz. She was cold and a little numb, but no worse than she had often been in the winter in the country, when she had spent an afternoon skating on the pond. She looked around. She was completely alone. Her heart began to pound. Then, seeming to echo from all around her, came Mrs. Witch's unforgettable voice. I have not given you my gift. You have something that it has not. This something is your only weapon, but you must find it for yourself. Then the voice ceased, and Meg knew that she was alone. She walked slowly down the hill, her heart thumping painfully against her ribs. There, below her, was the same row of identical houses they had seen before, and beyond these the linear buildings of the sky and the city. She walked along the quiet street. I need to take a short break and grab a drink. Hold on. I'm just reading the punctuations as they're given. This is A Wrinkle in Time. Thank you, oh, thank you, Louis, for the flower. Thank you. I took a nap. That's good. I might have heard wrong. It's late. Definitely not a tesseract. A tesseract. Right, it does have a bit more, religious points to it than I remembered. But it's fine. Thanks, Craig. Hi from Argentina. Wow, I'm good. Punctuation, yeah. I just blocked them because they were just a troll. That's fine. Hi, KJ. Hi from Atlantic Ocean. I love it. Alright. Let me get back to this. I am getting tired too, and it's hard to read. I need a little bit brighter light. I'm just gonna put the light down on the book. You guys will just not have the light on me. Alright, there we go. And there's my glasses. Wait, those aren't my glasses. Never mind. Where did I put my glasses? I'd probably be able to read easier with my glasses on as well. I keep forgetting to bring them. Alright. And it was dark and the street was deserted. Thanks. Alright. No children playing ball or skipping rope. No mother figures at the doors. No father figures returning from work. In the same window of each house was a light, and as Meg walked down the street, all the lights were extinguished simultaneously. Was it because of her presence, or was it simply that it was time for lights out? She felt numb. Greg, you're funny. And it is getting early. Yeah, it is. It's getting early. It's a lot later than I thought it was, but that's fine. This is my normal sleep schedule at this point. She felt numb, beyond rage or disappointment, or even fear. She put one foot ahead of the other with precise regularity, not allowing her pace to lag. She was not thinking. She was not planning. She was simply walking slowly but steadily toward the city and the domed building where it lay. Now she approached the outlying buildings of the city. In each of them was a vertical line of light, but it was a dim, eerie light. Not the warm light of stairways in cities at home, and there were no isolated, brightly lit windows where someone was working late, or an office was being cleaned. Out of each building came one man, perhaps a watchman, and each man started walking the width of the building. They appeared not to see her. At any rate, they paid no attention to her whatsoever, and she went on past them. What have I got that it hasn't got? She thought suddenly. What have I possibly got? Now she was walking by the tallest of the business buildings, more dim vertical lines of light. The walls glowed slightly to give a faint illumination to the streets. Central Intelligence was ahead of her. Was the man with red eyes still sitting there, or was he allowed to go to bed? But this was not where she must go, though the man with red eyes seemed the kind old gentleman he claimed to be when compared with it. But he was no longer of any consequence in the search for Charles Wallace. She must go directly to it. It isn't used to being resisted. Father said that's how he managed, and how Calvin and I managed as long as we did. Father saved me then. There's nobody here to save me now. I have to do it myself. I have to resist it by myself. Is that what I have that it hasn't got? No, I'm sure it can resist. It just isn't used to having other people resist. Central Intelligence, blocked with its huge rectangle at the end of the square. She turned to walk around it, and almost imperceptibly her steps slowed. It was not far to the great dome which housed it. I'm going to Charles Wallace. That's what's important. That's what I have to think of. I wish I could feel numb again the way I did at first. Suppose it has him somewhere else. Suppose he isn't there. I have to go there first anyhow. That's the only way I can find out. Her steps got slower and slower as she passed the great bronzed doors. The huge slabs of the Central Intelligence building, as she finally saw ahead of her the strange, light, pulsing dome of it. Father said it was all right for me to be afraid. He said to go ahead and be afraid. And Mrs. Hu said, I don't understand what she said, but I think it was meant to make me not hate being only me, and me being the way I am. And Mrs. Whatsit said to remember that she loves me. That's what I have to think about. Yes, Wrinkle in Time. We're in the last chapter of the first book of Wrinkle in Time. Yes, thank you, Olivia. Thank you, thank you. That's a good question. It's late for bed and early to get up. That's funny. Yeah, hopefully you can go to sleep. If you go to sleep to this, that's definitely welcomed. Not about being afraid or not as smart as it. Mrs. Whatsit loves me. That's quite something, to be loved by someone like Mrs. Whatsit. She was there. No matter how slowly her feet had taken her at the end, they had taken her there. Directly ahead of her was the circular building, its walls glowing with violet flame, its silvery roof pulsing with a light that seemed to Meg to be insane. Again, she could feel the light, neither warm nor cold, but reaching out to touch her, pulling her toward it. There was a sudden sucking, and she was within it. It was as though the wind had been knocked out of her. She grasped for breath in her own rhythm, not the permeating pulse of it. She could feel the inexorable beat within her body, controlling her heart, her lungs. But not herself, not Meg. It did not quite have her. She blinked her eyes rapidly and against the rhythm until the redness before them cleared and she could see. There was the brain. There was it, lying, pulsing and quivering on the dais, soft and exposed and nauseating. Charles Wallace was crouched beside it, his eyes still slowly twirling, his jaw still slacked, and she had seen him before, with a tick in his forehead, reiterating the revolting rhythm of it. As she saw him, it was again as though she had been punched in the stomach, for she had not realized afresh that she was seeing Charles, and yet it was not Charles at all. Where was Charles Wallace, her own beloved Charles Wallace? What is it I have got that it hasn't got? You have nothing that it hasn't got, Charles Wallace said, coldly. How nice to have you back, dear sister. We have been waiting for you. We knew that Mrs. Whatsit would send you. She is our friend, you know. For an appalling moment Meg believed, and in that moment she felt her brain being gathered up into it. No, she screamed at the top of her lungs. No, you lie. For a moment she was free from its clutches again. As long as I can now stay angry enough, it can't get me. Is that what I have that it doesn't have? Nonsense, Charles Wallace says. You have nothing that it doesn't have. You're lying, she replied, and she felt only anger toward this boy who was not Charles Wallace at all. No, it was not anger, it was loathing. It was hatred, sheer and unadulterated, and as she became lost in hatred, she also began to be lost in it. The red miasma swam before her eyes, her stomach churned in its rhythm. Her body trembled with the strength of her hatred and the strength of it. With the last vestige of consciousness, she jerked her mind and body. Hate was nothing that it didn't have. It knew all about hate. You are lying about that. And you were lying about Mrs. Whatsit, she screamed. Mrs. Whatsit hates you, Charles Wallace said. And that was where it made its fatal mistake. For as Meg said automatically, Mrs. Whatsit loves me. That's what she told me, that she loves me. Suddenly she knew. She knew. You are digging it? How so? I'm happy that you have been feeling better. You always... Thank you, Craig. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm feeling better. Still a ways to go. My library teacher looked like you when I was a kid checking out Curious George books. You're hilarious. 30 by Nashville. Oh, thank you. Welcome, welcome. My first time listening session and you something like an angel. Aw, thank you. Yeah, if this is your first time, we are in the last chapter of the first book of the trilogy of Wrinkle in Time. And if you want to catch up on the previous chapters, I have all the previous chapters of my readings as well as my previous books I've read on my YouTube channel, which is the same name as my name here, Bad Pika P, and I have a link to it directly. Well, I mean, if I chop my hair, it's because I want to, but I do enjoy it long as well. All right. Let's see, where was that? Love. That was what she had that it did not have. She had Mrs. Whatsit love, and her father's and her mother's, and the real Charles Wallace's love, and the twins. Do I write? Not as much as I wish I could have the patience for. Oh, thank you for all the hearts. I do want to write a book, though. I mean, I'm one of those people that wants to write a book, but I don't know if I ever will. I don't know if I have the patience or organization mentally for that. In Aunt Beasts, and she had her love for them. But how could she use it? What was she meant to do? If she could give love to it, perhaps it would shrivel up and die, for she was sure that it could not withstand love. But she, in all her weakness and foolishness and baseness and nothingness, was incapable of loving it. Perhaps it was not too much to ask of her, but she could not do it. But she could love Charles Wallace. She could stand there, and she could love Charles Wallace, her own Charles Wallace, the real Charles Wallace, the child for whom she had come back to Camisards, to it, the baby who was so much more than she was, and who was yet so utterly vulnerable. She could love Charles Wallace. Charles, Charles, I love you, my baby brother who was always taking care of me. Come back to me. Charles Wallace, come away from it. Come back. Come home. I love you. Charles Wallace, I love you. Tears were streaming down her cheeks, but she was unaware of them. Now she was even able to look at him, at this animated thing that was not her own Charles Wallace at all. She was able to look and love. I love you, Charles Wallace. You are my darling and my dear, and the light of my life, and the treasure of my heart. I love you. I love you. I love you. Slowly his mouth closed. Slowly his eyes stopped their twirling. The tick on the forehead ceased its revolting twitch. Slowly he advanced toward her. I love you, she cried. I love you, Charles, I love you. Then suddenly he was running, pelting. He was in her arms. He was shrieking with sobs. Meg, Meg, Meg. I love you, Charles, she cried again, her sobs almost as loud as his, her tears mingling with his. I love you, I love you, I love you. A whirl of darkness, an icy cold blast, an angry, resentful howl that seemed to tear through her. Darkness again. Through the darkness, to save her, came a sense of Mrs. Whatsit's presence, so that she knew it could not be it who now had her in its clutches. And then the feel of earth beneath her, of something in her arms, and she was rolling over on the sweet-smelling autumnal earth, and Charles Wallace was crying out, Meg, oh Meg. Now she was hugging him close to her, and his little arms were clasped tightly around her neck. Meg, you saved me, he said over and over. Meg, came a call, and there were her father and Calvin hurrying through the darkness toward them. Still holding Charles, she struggled to stand up and look around. Father, Cal, where are you? Where are we? Charles Wallace, holding her hand tightly, was looking around too, and suddenly he laughed, his own sweet, contagious laugh. In the twins' vegetable garden, and we landed in the broccoli. Meg began to laugh too, at the same time that she was trying to hug her father, to hug Calvin, and not let go of Charles Wallace for 1 second. Meg, you did it, Calvin shouted. You saved Charles. I'm very proud of you, my daughter. Mr. Murry kissed her gravely, then turned toward the house. Now I must go in to Mother. Meg could tell that he was trying to control his anxiety and eagerness. Look, she pointed to the house, and there were the twins and Mrs. Murry walking toward them through the long, wet grass. First thing tomorrow I must get some new glasses, Mr. Murry said, squinting in the moonlight, and then starting to run toward his wife. Dennis's voice came crossly over the lawn. Hey, Meg, it's bedtime. Sandy suddenly yelled, Father! Mr. Murry was running across the lawn, Mrs. Murry running toward him, and they were in each other's arms. And then there was a tremendous happy jumble of arms and legs and hugging, the older Murrays and Meg and Charles Wallace and the twins, and Calvin grinning by them until Meg reached out and pulled him in, and Mrs. Murry gave him a special hug all of his own. They were talking and laughing all at once, when they were startled by a crash, and Fortinbras, who could bear being left out of the happiness not 1 second longer, catapulted his sleek black body right through the screen door to the kitchen. He dashed across the lawn to join in the joy, and almost knocked them all over with the exuberance of his greeting. Meg knew all at once that Mrs. Whatsit, Mrs. Who, and Mrs. Which must be near, because all through her she felt a flooding of joy and of love that was even greater and deeper than the joy and love which were already there. She stopped laughing and listened, and Charles listened too. Hush. Then there was a whirring, and Mrs. Whatsit, Mrs. Who, and Mrs. Which were standing in front of them, and the joy and love were so tangible that Meg felt that if she only knew where to reach, she could touch it with her bare hands. Mrs. Whatsit said breathlessly, Oh, my darlings, I'm sorry we don't have time to say goodbye to you properly. You see, we have to. But they never learned what it was that Mrs. Whatsit, Mrs. Who, and Mrs. Which had to do, for there was a gust of wind, and they were gone. And that's the end of that book. And the next book is A Wind in the Door. So, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me and listening. I'm just gonna use your little ones. Oh my goodness, you guys are so funny. Thank you guys so much. Pinch. I love it. Yeah, it's just hard. I normally am like ready for bed. I haven't showered yet and got ready for bed yet, so that's why I'm sitting up. Normally I'm laying back on my pillow, like laying in bed reading. But yeah. So I'm a gamer as well, so I'm used to my neck getting destroyed. Thank you. Yes, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I really enjoyed all you in here. It's been so amazing, and definitely check out my YouTube channel because it has the previous chapters so you can catch up. And I'll be posting the last couple chapters that I read here on it tomorrow, hopefully. And the next time I'm doing a reading live, bedtime story live, I will be starting the next book, which is still in the same book, but it's like a trilogy, so. I love you guys too. I'm in the Midwest. Thank you, Whitehurst, for the panda! Coming in strong at the end with the panda. I love it so much. I love it so much. You guys are amazing. Thank you for making me so happy. Makes me feel loved. Thank you, thank you. That's a interesting name. Alright, so I'm gonna get off of here and get ready for bed. Oh my goodness. Let me add your name to my bookmark. Thank you for the gift. Let's see. Thank you. Go. Peter. It's funny. 69. Your name is right there. Thank you for the gifts. Great book choice. Thank you. Yes, it's one of my favorites. Oh my gosh, Craig, thank you so much. Please don't go. Well, it's not the last time. I do stay pretty active on my TikTok lives. I have a lot of different lives. I do the bedtime readings. I do yoga workouts or just regular like Pilates type stuff. I do cooking lives. I'm not a good cook. And so I'm on a journey to learn how to cook, and it's always an adventure. And I might actually be doing that tomorrow as long as my energy is improved tomorrow in time. Thanks for reading to us. Of course, Whitehurst, thank you so much for showing up and hanging out with me again. I always enjoy having you in here. Awesome. Sounds good. And I also go live when I stream on Twitch. And also, I stream on Twitch, so if you want to see me on there as well, I have a link that is directly to my Twitch channel. Just make sure you hit the follow button, and that way when I do go live on there, you'll be notified, and then you'll be able to see me on there too. So, yeah, so check out my Linktree link in my profile, and check out all the socials that I have on there and stuff that I have going on there, and that's the easy way for everybody to keep up. Oh, yes, I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much, you guys. You guys are amazing and wonderful. I hope you have a wonderful evening or morning, depending on where you're at in the world. And I hope to see you again soon. And I love you all. Have a wonderful, wonderful day or night.